We're going to commence with the left ear. So this is the patient's left ear. Now, the occlusion in this ear is a bit more, the wax is a bit more softer and it's a bit more wet compared to the right side, which is a lot drier. In both ears, alongside the earwax, there's a lot of dead keratin that's amalgamated within the wax plug and also enveloped the wax plug itself. And there is quite a few loose hairs, so a bit of matted earwax as well, which can always make it a bit more tricky to get the suction grip. So we're just near the entrance here, so we're in the outer third, the cartilaginous portion, and we know that because we can see the cilia, the hairs. So the hair follicles in the ear canal are located on the outer cartilaginous portion. The inner 2/3 of the ear canal, there shouldn't really be any hairs. There's no hair follicles within the inner 2/3 of the ear canal. So if you ever do see hair in the inner 2/3, it's either that the patient's been trimming their ear hairs, or when they've gone for trimming their beard or have had a haircut, the hairs fly into the ear, or they're using cotton buds. Some patients, you would have seen a video, I think it's my last but two, where they had so much natural hair at the entrance of the ear that the roots were growing the hairs in such a way that they're protruding into the ear as opposed to out of the ear. So I've just mobilised this plug of wax. You can see the skin envelope, the dead keratin envelope that's engulfed this plug. And this skin is also attached to the ear canal, so we have to mobilise it off the canal wall. And on this occasion, it's still adhered to the wax plug. Ear canal is quite twisty and narrow, so just gentle wriggles. So you can see the underneath is engulfed with the skin, but the top layer isn't. You see there's a few hairs, matted hairs within the wax plug itself. So this patient attends annually. I think it's just been over a year on this occasion, so it is a chronic problem that they have. In terms of frequency of earwax impaction, it can range. So when people ask me why do they get wax and how often they would need to come and have it removed, on average, so this is a UK population, it may differ across different cultures and climates, for example. For example, in the more European people from African descent have wet earwax, whereas the Far East, North Americans have dry wax, and the consistency of wax may also have a role in the frequency and the speed of regrowth of the wax once it's been removed. But so in the UK, at least, we on average we say about 92 to 95% of the population. We all have wax, but it doesn't cause many problems. There's no impaction of wax. So around 5 to 8%, unfortunately, suffer from blocked ears. Now, earwax, in terms of regrowth, I've got one client that has to tend every, I would say, 2 to 3 months. So it's probably I've got 2 or 3 actually. It's almost like we remove the wax, and as they're walking out the front door, the wax is coming back. And I've got some clients every 5 or 6 years. On average, I'd say about 1.5 years as an average, if I was to average all my clients. They often ask what they can do, and there's no magic cure, unfortunately. It's more don'ts than do's. So don't poke in your ears, don't get water in your ears. You may wish, once you've had the wax removed, because we say avoid water in the ears, water is really bad for the ear. Some clients, I just advise, they may want to rinse their ear using an olive oil spray, which is specifically treated for safe use in the ear, so it's not olive oil you have in your kitchen. And I ask those patients to tilt the ear that they're putting the drops in so it's facing the ceiling, fill up their ear completely with the olive oil, leave it for 5 minutes so it's softening any wax, and then they must tilt back. So I'll come back to that. Since the patient's eardrum then, well, you might have missed that, but it's the same on the right side. You'll see loads of tympanosclerotic plaques, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So you soak the ear with the olive oil, leave it for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, I ask the patient to tilt their head the opposite way, so the ear that the drops was in is now facing the floor. And then you can put a bit of tissue underneath the ear to collect the oil as it's drizzling out. So you're hoping as this oil is coming out, it's taking out with it any softened wax. If you don't drain the ear, what will happen? The wax will soften and it will drizzle further down towards the eardrum, so it's counterproductive. And they can do that on a fortnightly, monthly basis. And as long as the patient hasn't got a perforated eardrum and there's no contraindication, they don't have any allergies to the oil, there's no harm really to do that. I wouldn't overdo it. I wouldn't do it too regularly, like every week or every few days. So again, clear the wax plug. We used an ear hook there because the wax was a lot drier, a lot more keratin, dead skin. There's a few cilia there. So I tried with the microsuction probe. It was on the suction probe. It was just too large, too dry. It wasn't really suitable for microsuction. So using the hook, came out in a big plug. Just using the fine end sucker now. We're going to peel away all this dead skin. And because we're on the cartilaginous portion here, we can put a bit of pressure against the canal wall. It's not going to be uncomfortable, but as we go deeper in the ear, we have to be very, very cautious and careful. We don't want to make contact with the bony part of the ear. You can see at the roof of the ear canal here, it's a really dry piece of dead skin, keratin. And as I peel it, it's going to go towards the patient's eardrum. So on both sides, the patient's got tympanosclerosis, so that's a build-up of calcium deposits, so we call it calcification. It's normally typically in response to some sort of trauma, so it could be acoustic trauma over the years or sudden loud bang. The eardrum's undertaken some trauma, so it's kind of scar tissue. It could be barotrauma, so sudden change in pressure, which sometimes can perforate someone's eardrum. So when the eardrum heals, we get a scar tissue build-up. It could be physical trauma, so a blow or knock to the ear. And I think I've said acoustic trauma. So acoustic, physical, and barotrauma, I think they're the main ones. If there's another one, I'll mention it in another video. So you can see those plaques. So you've got a patch on the left-hand side of the eardrum, and on the right there's more plaques. There's like really kind of balls of calcium deposits there on the right-hand side. So the patient has got quite dry ears, hence why there's a lot of dead skin. You can see the skin that's enveloped around the wax plug. So these are some close-ups of what I've removed from the patient's ear. There's a lot more matted in that plug. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys.